Hello and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we will set up a Windows 11 computer, which will be our client computer, and then we will join that client computer to become a part of our domain. So let's get started. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to come to our Hyper-V manager. So again, whether you are using Hyper-V or whether you are using VMware Workstation Pro or whether you are using the Oracle VirtualBox, this process is pretty much the same. So you just want to create a new virtual machine. So what I can do here is on the KLA, I can just right click on it and come to new and then click on virtual machine. And then I'll go to next. This will be our first Windows client computer. So I'll just say client 01. And then I will go to next. I'll keep it to generation 2 and go to next. I'll keep it to the default memory size here and go to next. I want it to be connected to our external switch. So I will just click external switch. If you remember in episode 2 of this series, we did set up this external switch. So this is the switch that our Active Directory server is connected to. So we want to have the client on the same switch as the server so that we can be able to join it to the domain. So I'm just going to choose connect to external switch and click on next. And then I'm just going to keep these to the default options. Go to next. I will install my operating system later. So I'll just keep that. Go to next. Again, this is a summary of everything we have selected. I can just click on finish to complete this process. It's going to create the virtual machine. So now we have this virtual machine and the state is off. Once we have this virtual machine, we can click on this virtual machine to highlight this virtual machine. And you can come to the panel here on action to your right hand side. You can click on settings. And then within the settings, you can always modify these things. So for some reason, if I don't want this virtual machine to have a 4 gig memory, let's say I want it to have 2 gig memory, I can just come here and just change the size to 2 gig memory. You can change everything here from the memory to the processor. You can make all of these changes, add additional hard drive, add additional network card. So this settings really allows you to change and modify anything on your virtual machine. But what I want to do is to come to our SCSI controller and I will click on DVD to add a DVD drive. I will then click on add. And then now that I've added a DVD drive, I will come and click on image file and then click on browse to browse for the Windows 11 ISO image. So I'll just click on browse. I'll go to drive D and I will go to downloads. And I have a folder here called KLA ISO images. So I'll double click that and I'll just look for my Windows 11. Here is it, Windows 11. And I'll click on open and I will just apply and click OK. So I have connected the ISO image to my client computer. So the next thing I want to do here is just to power on this computer and begin the installation of Windows 11. So I will click on start and then I will just double click on this black screen on our client 1 here. It's gone to my second computer screen, so I'll just bring it on the side. So it's going to boot from the ISO image and then I will begin the installation of Windows 11. I'll minimize this for a bit and it's trying to boot from the network. So I'm just going to come to the power. Sorry, I'll just close this. I want to come to action and just reset this power. So I'll just click reset. I'll click reset. Give it a few seconds and allow it to restart this virtual machine. And if I'm prompted to press any key to begin the installation, I will just press any key to begin the installation. I'm just going to go to my server, double click on it, I'm going to just completely shut down the server, and just to free up some resources so that this is not taking forever. So I'm going to log into my server, administrator, put in the password. So one best practice that Microsoft recommends is that the default administrator, that username is administrator, right? So it's something that everyone knows, that the default administrator for a Windows server is called administrator. One thing Microsoft recommends is for you to rename the administrator account. So I will just click on Tools and go to Active Directory, Users and Computers. And then I will open my domain and click on Users. So once I click on Users, I can come to Administrator, right click on Administrator, click on Rename, and I will just change this administrator to KLA. I'll press Enter. It tells us that the object administrator represents the currently logged in user. After renaming this object, it is advisable for the user to immediately log off and log on using the new user name to avoid any access conflict. Are you sure you want to rename this object? I will say yes. And then I can just say a full name called Louise Academy. And that's it, first name, last name. So I'll just put my call Louise. The username, I'm just going to keep it to KLA. So I will just change it to, just to distinguish it from the domain name, which is KLA, I will just make the username to be Louise. So what we are doing, we have renamed the administrator, that default administrator user, we have renamed that user to my grandmother name, right? So you can rename it to anyone, or it could be like a generic in-house name within your company that is only known to the IT department, especially to those the system administrators. So it's just a way of providing that extra level of security, right? So instead of me just coming and just put administrator and try to guess what the password could be, that administrator doesn't even exist anymore because that user has been renamed to another name. So now I have to figure out what that name is, and then before I try to guess the password. So it just kind of provides an extra level of security. So once that is done, I'm just going to click here and come and click on administrator, say sign out. And then I will come back here, go to action and say Control or Delete. And then now I need to put in the username. So let's try that username, administrator. And then put in the password and see if we can log in. So we'll press enter. You see, it tells you the username or password is incorrect. So it's because we have changed that, right? So I'm just going to put in the name we used was Louise, and then we'll put in the same password. And then it logs in, right? So now I'm logged in as the administrator, but not with the default name administrator, with a different name, right? So if I come to the command line and I say who am I? So as you can see, after typing who am I, we see that we are logging to the domain, and then now we are logging with this user. But then at the bottom here, the reason why we see users / administrator is because when we first created the profile, it created the profile for the default administrator user. So the home directory for this user, even though we have changed the login name, when we go to drive C, we go to users, it's still administrator because it was created when that user initially logged in. So we can change that by logging in with a different user that has administrator, right? And then going to making some changes in the registry, and then come and rename this folder to be Louise, right? But I just wanted to show you that, for security measures, and you can just rename that default administrator account to some name that is known just to the system administrator. So it eliminates that knowledge of people knowing that, okay, the default administrator is administrator, right? So it provides that level of security. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you that. All right, so I'm going to turn off this client computer. I'm going to click on start and allow it to start. All right, so after successfully attaching the Windows 11 ISO image to our client computer, we want to just come right back to the client computer, click on it, and come back to settings. So as you can see, we have successfully attached Windows 11 ISO image. So we want to go up to firmware and just change the boot sequence, right? So by default, it is going to start to boot this computer from the network. And then after it can find like a source to boot from the network, it's going to start to boot the operating system from the hard drive. And then before it tries to boot from the DVD. We know right now we do not have Windows deployment services set up, so we can boot from the network. We haven't installed an operating system on this client computer, so we can boot from the hard drive. We want to boot from the DVD. So we're just going to click on DVD and move it to the top so that it can become the first option for this virtual computer to boot from. So we'll just click on apply and we'll click on OK. So once that is done, we know that once we boot up this computer, or once we power on this computer will start to boot first from our virtual hard drive. So I will just keep it highlighted and just click on start and double click on this. And it's going to say press enter key to boot from CD. So we're going to press enter key. Wait a minute. So I'm just going to just power circle this. I'll click action, say reset. Now press enter key and it's going to boot from our DVD. So we'll give it a few seconds. It brought up the language for us to install Windows 11. As you can see at the top here, it tells you Windows 11 setup. So we're just going to keep it to the default language. This ISO was downloaded as a English ISO, so it doesn't have the option. Language to install. It just has the option as English. So, but if it was a multi-language ISO, then it will have multiple languages. Then you can choose your language. But again, make sure when you are downloading the ISO for Windows 11, make sure you are downloading the language based on the language that you want to install Windows in. Or what I can do, I can just minimize this and then I can just show you how you can download Windows 11. So I'm just going to open my browser. So I can just say download Windows 11 ISO and just click on download Windows 11 ISO. And then You can have this option where you use the installation assistant. I don't want to do that. You want to download the ISO. So you just scroll down. Here it gives you, the second option gives you the option to create a media. So it could be creating a DVD or creating a USB. So for us, you want to choose the last option or the third option, download Windows 11 disk image ISO, right? So you want to make sure you click here and then you choose Windows 11 ISO. And then you can click on this. It just gives you information about the DVD. So you can just click on more download options. Oh, we don't need any of that. So you just click on confirm and it's going to validate your request. So you give it a few seconds. It tells you do not refresh. So once it validates the request, then it's going to allow you to select the product language. So you click here and then you can choose the language you want to download. So it's not giving you the option where you can download one ISO, which is multi-language or multilingual. And then when you are installing, then from the drop-down list, you can just pick which language. At this stage, it's just giving you the option to just download the ISO in one language, right? So pick your language here. For me, I just use English US. So you make sure you pick your language. So yeah, so that's how you can download this Windows 11 ISO image. I will make sure to leave a link to this in the video description down below so that you can just click on it and it takes you straight to this page and it gives you the option to download. So you even see here, it tells you have 3 options to download. So out of the first one is the installation assistant, second is to create the media, or third to do the download of the ISO. So make sure to download it using the third, download ISO, and then you can continue. So we'll just come back to this. So maximize this. So for the time format, I change it to English Canada, and then I click on next. My keyboard is English US, so just make sure you have your keyboard. I'm sure once you choose the language that you are installing in, let's say if it is French, it will give you that option to change the keyboard to French, or you can even change it here to French. I'm using English US, so I'm just going to keep it to that. And I will go to next. Then do you want to repair? We don't have an existing Windows 11, so we don't want to repair. We want to install Windows 11, so keep it to the first option. I agree, everything will be deleted, including files. So we don't have anything on it, so this doesn't really bother us. So I'll just go next. It's asking for a product key. You just choose this option down here. I don't have a product key. And you go on to install Windows 11. All right, so we are brought to this next screen to choose which Windows edition we want to choose. Again, there's something that confuses a lot of people, and we can just talk about it briefly, and that is the difference between a Windows version and a Windows edition. So I will just talk about that briefly, and then we can continue with the video. So we have Windows. So we have Windows version. And then we have Windows edition. So when you look at Windows version, what it means is the different flavors of Windows. So again, when you come to Windows version, there are 2 main Windows version. We have Windows version that are client operating system, and then we have Windows versions that are server operating system. So client, and then we have server. So for Windows Server, we'll have the server way back in these days, they used to have several 2000. Then they had several 2003. Then Microsoft came up with several 2008. Then from 2008, they came to several 2012. Then 2016. Then 2019, yes. And then currently we have 2025. These are the different Windows Server edition. You can go back to Windows NT Server. I'm not going to go there. I'm just sticking to this. And then for Windows Client, one of the famous Windows Client was Windows XP. Then Microsoft came out with Vista. Then Windows 7. And then Windows 8. And then after Windows 8, Windows 10, and now we have Windows 11. So these are different versions of Windows. So again, when it comes to the version, there are two main groups. You have the client and you have the server, right? So the server version of Windows has certain features and capabilities that the client don't have. So you cannot configure Active Directory on Windows 11, but you can configure Active Directory on Server 2022. Oh yeah, I made a mistake. After 2019, right in between here should be 2022. Yes, Windows Server 2022 before 2025. So these are the versions. So if you pick one of the versions of Windows, so let's say we pick Server 2022. If you remember in the installation video, that is episode 2 of this series, when we were installing Windows Server 2022, we had Standard Edition. So we have Windows Server Standard Edition. Then we had Data Center Edition. If you remember. And from the DVD, even from the website, there was also the Azure Edition. But we didn't download the Azure Edition. We only downloaded the ISO. And on the ISO, it had just the 2 options. Actually, it had 4 options. But it was actually the 2 options, which are the 2 editions. It had the graphical user interface version of the standard and the server core. And then it also had the graphical, which was called the desktop experience. So when you actually look at it, it's actually just 2 edition of the ISO. So you have the standard edition, and you can have standard edition installed as server core, or you can have standard edition installed as a desktop experience. And then you have the data center can also be installed as a data center server core, or it can be installed with the desktop experience. But regardless, these are pretty much the 3 editions of Windows Server 2022 that we have. We have the standard edition, data center, and then the Azure edition. So that's the difference between Windows version and Windows edition. So let's go back to the video, and then we will look at the Windows 11 we are installing, and you will see that there are a lot of editions that we have to install. And different editions will have different features and other additional things added to it. For example, if you have a Windows 11 Home Edition, a Home Edition can never become part of a domain. You can join a Home Edition to a domain, because in a home, people just use the computer in their home. They don't have a domain environment because they are not, usually someone in the home will not have the knowledge of having a domain, right? So those Home Edition will not have that feature. So maybe you need to join domain. You need something that Windows 11 Professional Edition or Education Edition, which will be used in an educational environment. So maybe in a high school, or within a university, or within a college, right? Or even an elementary school, you'll use the Education Edition. So you have to just make sure that you are installing the right edition so that you don't run into issues when you want to join the computer to the domain. So with that being said, we have these different editions of Windows 11. So we're just going to go for Windows 11 Professional. So we'll take the Pro and then we'll go to Next. I will make sure to leave a link to a Microsoft website that will talk about the different features of each of the Windows 11 editions, so you can go and read about it and just understand why you will go for a particular edition over another one. So here we see that, first of all, our computer, which is this virtual computer, does not meet the system requirement. And then the first thing that comes to my mind is that with this Windows 11, it's supposed what they call the TPM, Trusted Platform Module. So we just want to make sure that, so I'll just go to File, go to Settings. I just want to make sure that Trusted Platform Module is enabled for this VM. So I'll go to Security. Oh, okay. So you see, Trusted Platform Module is not enabled. So it's good that we ran into that error, and like I completely forgot that we would have ran into that. But once I saw it and I remember it's because I didn't enable Trusted Platform Module. I will put a link to the Microsoft website and for the system requirements for Windows 11. It's good to just read those things and be familiar with the requirements so that you don't run into an error like this. We cannot make a modification to this virtual machine because the virtual machine is on. So we need to shut it down. So I will just click turn off. I will say turn off. It will shut down our virtual machine. Then we will go to File, go to Settings, and then we can come to Security and just enable Trusted Platform Module, and then click on Apply or OK, or you can just click on OK. And then now, when we click on Start, and then we'll press any key to boot from CD or DVD, I'll just maximize that. And we'll just repeat this process. So I'm just going to go quickly through this. Next. Yes, install, we agree. Next, I don't have a product key. I'm going to choose Pro. Next. See, now we passed. So it's because we didn't have Trusted Platform Module. So Trusted Platform Module is just a microchip that is on the motherboard that keeps security information within that chip. So there's something that BitLocker and other security things that are in Windows 11 are kept on the TPM. So you need to, if we were actually buying a physical computer, modern computer nowadays, other computers that come, they already have that TPM on it. Just older computers that don't have TPM on it, so which means you run into issues if you try to install Windows 11 on those older computers that don't have TPM. Right? But newer computers have TPM, so that's something you probably would not even have to think about because they already have it. But for our virtual machine, by default, it is not enabled. We just needed to turn it on, right? So that's how we were able to pass by that. So I would just click on accept here and then give it a few seconds. So we want to just install Windows 11 on the entire hard drive. So I will just keep it to that and just click Next. And then now we are about to install. So ready to install? Yes, we are ready. So I'll click on Install and Windows 11 installation will begin. So I will pause the video, allow it to install. And once it installs, we will restart the computer and then log in. And then once we log in, again, just like we did with the server, we'll have to go to the properties, change the name because it will have that default name, some alphanumeric value. So we want to change that to the name. We want to set up a static IP address, and then we want to change the time zone. And then once we do all of those things, restart. And once those changes are applied successfully to the computer, then we will join this computer to become part of our domain. And once that is done, then this video will come to an end. So then that will be how you install Windows 11 and then how you make it part of the domain. So I'll pause this video, allow the installation to go on. All right, so we have finished the installation first part of that. So we're just going to go through this real quick. So right here, we are just being asked to select the country that we are in. So again, make sure to select your country at this point. So I'm just going to choose Canada. Good. Yes. My keyboard is US keyboard, so yes. I will skip because I don't want to add an additional keyboard for now. You can always add an additional keyboard within Windows, so it doesn't really matter at that point. All right, so at this stage is allowing us to just put in the computer name. So if we skip this, it's going to do that WIN and then with the alphanumeric, which is just the randomly generated name for a Windows computer. Or we can just define the computer name here and then we don't have to do it from within. Since we already did it on the server 2022, so we can just do it here to just experience how it will be. So I'll just put client 01. I will go to next. And when it comes to computer name, for now it's just because we are just doing our own lab, so we just do DC01 for client. We do client 01 for the first client, client 02 for the next client. That probably will not be the case for your workplace, so make sure you consult with your system administrator, or if you are the system administrator, make sure you consult with your supervisor or the IT manager. Within every company, there will be a naming convention that they follow. So when it comes to the server names, there will be a convention. When it comes to the client computer name, there will be a convention. So make sure you are following the convention for the company you work for, and make sure you are doing everything based on the various policies that you already have there in place. So we have two options here. Are we setting up this for personal use or for work or school? So right now, I'm not going to do, I'll just say set up for personal use. Next. Checking for Windows update, so we'll give it a few seconds. So we're just going to pause this video, allow it to download and install Windows Update. By the way, this is not the latest version of the ISO image for Windows 11. I downloaded it probably a year ago or so. So I'm just going to pause this video, allow this to complete, and once we come back, we will continue. All right, so we have successfully installed our client computer with Windows 11. So the first thing I want to do here is to just come to this client computer. Within the search, I will just type ncpa.cpl. I will go and make sure I set up the network settings. So I will double click on Ethernet, and I will click on Properties, and I will click on IP version 4 and click on Properties. All right, so now we have clicked on on properties, we will just come and say use the following IP address. So we're just going to give it a static IP address just within the same IP range as the domain controller. So 192.168.100. Let's just give it .20 as the IP address, because what we will do, we will use from .1 all the way to .20 for the servers, and then the client computers can use from .20 and above. So once you press tab, it's going to assign the default subnet mask. And when joining a computer to the domain, one of the most important things to do is to make sure to put in the DNS IP address. And our DNS server, DC01, so, and the IP address is .1. So I'll just put .1. I'll click OK. I'll click close. And then, so that is done. So maybe what I could do is to just ping the IP address of that server, 192.168.100.1, and I'll press enter. Let me just go to the command prompt. So CMD, go to the command prompt. I'll just ping our domain controller .1. All right, so we are getting ping from the domain controller. But another thing I will bring up is at my home network, I have my home network. So and there is a router and it has DNS. So right now our network settings is set to external. So there is a connection between our virtual network and my home network. So just to prevent conflict between these two networks, what I would do is to go to the Hyper-V manager, and I will go to my virtual switch manager on the left. I will click on virtual switch manager. And what I want to do is to create a new virtual switch. So create virtual switch, I will just put it to, let's say, private. So it tells us that private will create a virtual switch that can be used only by the virtual machine that run on this physical computer. So I just want the network connectivity to just be private between the virtual machine, just to avoid any conflict with our home DNS server on my network here. So I will click on private, and I will click on create virtual switch, and I can put the virtual switch name. So I will just say private. Okay, and once I put private, and so I can just put private key. It doesn't matter. I can put any name. So I will just put private and KLA. So I just put in private to just know that this switch is a private connection, like how we have the other one was external. So know that that's an external switch. So we'll put it on private, and then we click on apply, and we'll click on OK. So what we have just done, we have created a private switch, but now we need to switch the devices to the private switch, right? So we come to the DC01, and again, in the case, it doesn't really matter. You can do the client first before the domain controller. At the end of the day, just make sure we have both client computers and domain controller connected to the private switch. So I'll right click on this domain controller and go to settings of the domain controller. I will come to network. I will switch the network from the virtual switch external. I will just switch it to private. I will click apply, click OK, and I will do the same for the client computer. So right click the client computer, go to settings, and then go to network, and then switch to private, and then apply, and then click on OK. So after doing that, I will just come back to the client computer and just re-ping this domain controller to just make sure that it can still ping the domain controller. So that is okay. So then the next thing we can do whilst we are at the command line, we can just say system properties advanced in the past, and we'll press enter. And what this will do is to bring up the system properties of this virtual computer. So we can come to the tab called computer name, and we'll just click on computer name, and we will come to change. Okay, during the installation of this virtual computer, client computer, we set the name to be client01, so the name is okay. So what we want to do here is to join it to the domain. So we'll click on domain, and we will put the name of our domain. So it's kla.local, and we'll click on OK. And then it will bring up this user account control screen. And once the screen comes up, we need to put in a username that is part of the domain, but also has the administrative privileges to join computer to the domain. So we'll put the name of our domain, / and our administrator is Luis, and then we'll put an administrator password. So this could be the main administrator, or this could be another staff or IT person who has the right to join computer to the domain. So it would just be the domain name / followed by the username and the user password. And then once they click OK, it will join that computer to the domain. So right there, we get a message, welcome to the kla.local domain. So it means that we were successfully able to join our client computer to the domain. So once we click on OK, it will prompt us to restart so that the changes can take effect. So we'll give it a few seconds, and yeah, we go. We have the message, you must restart your computer to apply these changes. So I'll click on OK, and I'll click on close. And I'll just say restart now to restart my client computer. So I'll give it a few seconds and allow the client computer to restart. And once the client computer restarts, then we will have the option to log into our domain. However, though, mind you, this computer, even though it's part of the domain, but it's also still has its local user account, right? So the local user account is an account that resides on the computer itself. So just on this client 01 computer, right? Whereas the domain account is something that lives within the Active Directory database. So if you have 10 computers connected to the domain, or if 10 computers are a member of a domain with a user account that exists on the domain, you can go from computer to computer and log into each of those computers because they are all member of the domain and your user account is also part of the domain. But on the flip side, if it is a local account, it is only local to that particular computer. So if I go to one computer and let's say my username is John, when I put John and the password is 1234, if that's a local account, I can only log into computer 1. If I go to computer 2, I will have to create John on that computer and then be able to log in. So I will have to go and create that account on each of the 10 computers for local account. Whereas for domain, you only have one account and then you can log into multiple computers that are part of the domain. So that's one of the advantages of having a domain environment. So I'm just going to click on Enhance section so that you can bring up the screen. And then now I have the option to put in my username. And when you look at the bottom, sign into KLA. So we know that we are logging into the domain. And then I can put in the password. And then sometimes let me see if, yeah. So if I want to log into the computer locally, what you can do is put in the username, you put a dot and you put a /, and when you notice, it will put the name of the computer down. So it says sign into client 01. So you know that if you put in this username and you put in a password and you press enter, it's going to log into the computer locally. That's why you are signing into the computer. But if you want to log into the domain, you can just put in the domain name and put / and put in the user and then put the password. But also, if you already have the option down here, sign into KLA, then you don't need to begin this with the domain. You can just put in the user because it's logging into the domain already, signed it is set to sign into the KLA domain. So if that's the case, as we have here, I can just put in the username here and put in the password, right? But if it is showing client01 and I want to log into the domain, then I will put the domain name, / and then put the user, and then put in the password. But again, it can show sign into the domain. I can still begin by putting the domain / log and then put the username and put the password. It will still log in, just that this is longer, right? Because you have to type in the domain name before the username. So you can just press this, and then now it's logging into the domain, right? So it's not logging into the local computer. And we can come in here and go to the command line. So if I come to the command line, CMD, and open the command line, if I say who am I, it shows the domain name and then it shows the username. So right there, you know that you are logged into this computer with a domain account. But then also I can just come here and say, click on the, so when you click on the name, you see Louise at KLA.local. So you see that we are logged in with the domain account. If I click on sign out, and I would try to log in locally, so you can just see the difference. So if I click on the second option, enhance screen, so now I'll put / and I'll put administrator, and I'll put in my password, and then when I press enter, let's see, so I think what happens is that once you join the computer to the domain, I think it disables the local administrator account. Is that the case? Let me see. Maybe it's 1 second. Maybe the username is Louis for the local account. So I'll do that, and then I'll press enter. Okay, so what I can do is to just put in Louis and log back into the domain. I can just go and double check. So once I'm logged into this computer, I can just click on start and go to run. Once I go to run, I can tap LUS arrow, MG arrow, and then press OK. Let me tap .msc at the end. Okay. Yeah. So I just needed to tap .msc at the end. So that was just the shortcut to bring me to local users and groups. So in the local users and group, I'll click dismiss. In the local users and group, I have two containers here. I have the user container and groups container. So when I click on users, so as you can see, the default administrator is disabled, and it use my personal account because I use my personal Microsoft account to log in. That's why the user to log in is this user, is not administrator. And then this group, and these are the local groups, right? So yeah. So all right, so that's how to install Windows 11 and join it to the domain. So this brings us to an end of this video. So make sure to like this video if you like it. If you have any question about anything in the video that you didn't understand, you can make sure to ask the question in the comment section down below. If you know of anyone who will find this video useful, make sure to share this video with them. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing and turn on all notifications so that you can be notified whenever we release a new video. But without further ado, this video will come to an end, and take care. I will see you in the very next video. Bye.